And we've kind of had a lead in already to the mindset. And this, after you have some skills, having that right mindset to build, to be able to survive a situation is critical. And your mindset changes everything. That's one thing that I've said for many years, and I absolutely believe, is that when you have a belief system that you can do it, when you have a belief system that it's possible for you, then you'll find a way. If you don't even believe it's possible, if you don't even have a belief that you can do anything or survive anything, you're probably going to look for the problems and everything, and you won't survive. Mentality and mental toughness is probably one of the key things in any preparedness, in any survival situation. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is in psychological testing, they found that and what we all talk about is there's two responses: fight or flight. Well, there's actually three. The third is freeze. You've probably seen people like someone jumps out and scares them. Like one guy goes up to punch him, the other guy runs away, and the last one's just like,
yeah, deer in the headlights.
What do I do? What's going on? And what they found, this is kind of interesting, is when people are in those situations where it's like, what do I do? And they found that the people who are the fight or take a step forward as opposed to freezing or moving backward, the stress levels that those create, the highest stress is to move forward. But what's interesting is that highest stress actually puts you into the smartest response that you can get into. Your brain will start problem solving faster than you're moving, so that you can actually create a better solution, better outcome by moving forward. Whether it's like a fight situation, right? The best thing, fight or flight, not necessarily fight. The best thing to do is run, get out of there, whatever it is. But like any kind of like major situation that hits, it's just like, oh crap, you got to figure something out. If you sit there in the stress, it's going to be worse for you. But if you fight through the hardest part of that, which is the first few seconds, and get to action, you're going to find you're going to be more adept to problem solving, more adept to getting a solution, more adept to overcoming that challenge and rising above your expectations. I was listening to a podcast actually this morning where the scientific teams that were researching these things were talking about that, and I was like, holy crap, that's fascinating. I'll share it on our social media so you guys can go look at it. It's a good hour and a half, but it's got like David Goggins, man, I can never say it right. Goggins, Navy SEAL, Ranger, Air Force, paramilitary, whatever, pararescue. Thank you, Brandon. Nice. Like the guy, he's like the baddest guy I know of in the military, and he's got some amazing things that he's accomplished. Then they've got some of the other guys in there talking about like how they respond to these things. And it's like mindset is your most valuable resource. And Shane and I have been talking about this for years. There's nothing more valuable to a prepper than their mind, right? You build the skills, and as you're building the skills, your mind is becoming resilient, or as we like to say, anti-fragile.
Oh yeah.
Right. Obviously, that all builds confidence and takes away that stress, but you've got to practice as well. Obviously, if in many situations, obviously, what is several years ago, there were a lot of these shootings, right? And a lot of the discussions were, okay, they try to give you a protocol of how to behave, right? And of course, they're not talking about using any kind of firearms or self-defense. They don't want you to do that. They want you to hide. And I forget it. I'm just bringing this up off the tip of my tongue here. It's either run or hide, but there was no fight in there, right? None of that was in there. It was always take the easier route. And most of the time, that might be the best case, especially if I have my kids with me, my wife, we're out of here. But if not, like Scott was saying, that fight may be the appropriate action.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy this afternoon, and he said, if an emergency hits, what's the first thing you're going to do? And people are like, oh, I'm going to, assess my situation. Oh, I'm going to grab my food. Oh, I'm going to grab my water, get my go bag. I'm going to do this. He says, no, the first thing you're going to do is panic. And so if you're mentally prepared for that being the first thing you're going to do, you're going to take that moment to realize this is a panicking, stressful situation. Recognize it, give yourself the 10, 20 seconds to kind of be there in that moment, and then say, okay, now it's time to go into problem solving mode. Because every problem has a solution. We can sit around
Yes.
and we can whine and complain about all the problems and why did this happen and why did the earthquake, why did my boss fire? We can whine and complain about it for days and for years. But the minute you change your mind to a solution oriented and a solution focus, man, that's when the magic happens.
Well, that's like, so you're faced with this massive situation, or it might be a minor situation, but you're faced with a situation. Panicking is the absolute response everyone's going to go into. Doesn't matter how well trained you are. There's going to be an element of panic in there. Now, if you're prepared and ready to move into that scenario, it's something you've been training for, the panic's like this, and you're like into action.
Yep.
For the rest of us, we've got to have a kind of a trigger that we create for ourselves. And if you've heard of the 5-second rule, I think it's fantastic. It basically teaches you how to launch yourself into action. So as soon as you have that first idea in your head of like, here's what I need to do, if you're still like not moving yet, go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You count down like a launch, and like that rocket, you take off and you go do that first thing that you know you need to do.
It's that old adage, ready, fire, aim.
Just start moving, because that movement, that just start moving part is going to get you to where you need to be. And it's okay to panic first, but hurry and bring it in. You have time to like really mourn the situation later. Right now, you've got to make sure you and your family, your loved ones are okay, and that you're making an action plan and moving on that action plan to get out of the dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Right.
And this isn't just in physical danger. This is, if you got an emotional danger, if you can have financial danger, you get a bill that comes in you weren't ready for, panic, and then solve the problem.
Lose your job. How many of us have lost our jobs in the last few years? Lose your job. Am I going to panic and sit there for 2 years waiting for something to happen good to me? Or am I going to take action and start working towards a better situation for my family? Right. Yep. Everyone that's listening to this is probably on that second group where they're going to take action and start working. It's the same thing in any type of scenario. Prepping isn't just for the apocalypse. That's what everyone, makes sexy, and it's not. It's going to suck. But the practical everyday use of preparedness is the life-saving blood for the self-reliant. I grew up in a very poor household. Like, we were just above the poverty line. I used to work in the cafeteria to get my breakfast and lunch. That's just how I went. Once I realized how much more I could get, it was just simple economics. But we lived off food storage all the time, and we rotated the food storage all the time. And I'd get in trouble all the time because I'd find the chocolate and I'd find the other things that I'm not supposed to be eating as a little kid and a teenager, and sometimes as an adult. And I would be like, no harm, no foul, right? But that was how life was, and we gardened and we did those things. And we became less fragile and more used to living on the edge. It's just normal. That was normal life for us. And I know a lot of people who had it way worse than I did, right? And I know people had it way better than I did. And what's funny is it's the way worse than I did guys that I admire the most, because they seem to be more ready than anyone else I know. They seem to have a better understanding of mindset, of skill sets than anyone else I know. And it's a huge benefit to have gone through kind of your own trial of fire, because it helps strengthen that mind, helps strengthen your resolve to make and not just make plans, but actually act on those plans. And that's just going to help you be mindset wise more prepared for future events, whatever they may be.